Thank you. If I say that your app or website makes me sick, I mean it literally. If I encounter certain kinds of movement or animations on the web or apps, I might get nauseous, I might feel disoriented, I might feel dizzy, I might get headaches. So that's not fun, to be honest, and that's actually pretty inconvenient sometimes. And now you might be wondering, like, okay, so the internet, the digital world, and okay, we have some problems. Great. Okay, let's hope that this works.
And small screens.
Yeah. All right. So again, you might be wondering how I survive the internet, which has and the digital world, which has like lots of different animations. It's pretty much filled with them. Well, there's actually a setting on different operating systems. It's often called reduced motion or turn animations off, and I'm using that one. And if developers respect that setting, I'm fine. I'm pretty much fine. I don't have to see those like animations that make me sick. But that doesn't always happen. But this is a topic I'm going to talk about more. I'm going to tell more about us who might get sick, for example, from certain kinds of movements, and what type of movements or types of movement might trigger this kind of symptoms. And at the end of the talk, I'm going to talk more about like Android-specific things related to this. But okay, now it's maybe working. Great, yes. So before diving into the topic, a couple of words about myself. So hi, my name is Eeva-Jonna Panula, or Eevis Panula. That's actually the name I recognize better. And I'm accessibility specialist and senior software developer. I develop our Android app at Aura. So if you've ever heard of Aura Ring, I could show you two right now. That's the company behind Aura Ring. And I am certified professional in web accessibility. Yes, one thing I forgot to mention. I have a long history in web development before switching to Android, and we lost that again. Okay, I'm going to go without slides, but there is two slides I want to show later, so I'm going to just set up them then. But we can do this without slides, but I'm going to use them as a aid. So yeah, back to the talk. So I have a history as a web developer before switching to Android development last year, and as mentioned, I'm certified professional in web accessibility, which is a credential from organization called, let me try this, International Association of Accessibility Professionals. Yes, I got it right for the first time. And I'm also Women Tech Makers Ambassador, which is a program from Google. And I love to share what I've learned, so I write a blog, I speak at events, like I'm here today, and I'm also a disabled person, which you might have guessed from the intro. And when I'm not doing, let's say, work-related things, I either I explore the Finnish nature either by foot or by kayak. And I would have a beautiful picture here, but I'm not gonna describe it if we don't get it visible right now. I'm gonna wait for a second. Yeah. Well, okay, I can actually describe it. So there is a picture. There is in the bottom of the picture, there is the nose of my kayak, which is orange, and the waters are pretty much still. Sun is shining, not in the picture, but you can see it in the picture that sun's shining. Sky is blue. There are some clouds, and my friend is kayaking in front of me, and there are a couple of islets, one bigger and then a couple of smaller ones. And now I'm going to show the picture to you. So this is what I was describing. All right. We'll see how long we have the slides, but let's see. All right. So, yes, today, I think I should have had one slide here. Okay, well, not. I'm going to go with this one. So today, as mentioned, we are going to talk about animations and accessibility, and then about Android and reduced motion. Sorry, I'm still confused because I usually have one slide with a link between these ones, so like this is confusing me. So, yeah. So technical problems, this happens. Hopefully, nothing else during the talk. So yeah, this is the agenda for today. Yeah, all right. So, let's talk about animations and accessibility, or first, actually, about accessibility. When I say accessibility or something is accessible, what I mean is that anyone, despite having disabilities, or if they don't have disabilities, can use digital product or like service, site, app, whatever. So that's basically what I'm talking about when I say the word accessibility. And one important thing to note here is that I'm talking about digital accessibility, which you might have guessed. In Finnish language, there are two words, saavutettavuus and esteettömyys. Saavutettavuus means digital world accessibility, and esteettömyys is about like physical world accessibility. So like I just want to kind of like underline that we are talking about the digital world here. And then animations. As I mentioned in the intro, animations are basically everywhere. Like you can't live without seeing them somewhere. If you use the web, if you use any apps, if you use social media, animations are here to stay. And well, that's great for some, but not fun for everyone. And the problem with animations, or there are kind of like two kinds of problems with animations. First of all, they might trigger different kinds of symptoms such as nausea, dizziness, feeling disoriented, migraine, seizures, or something else. And the other thing is that animations can also be distracting. I don't know about you, have you ever been, let's say, tired and tried to read something, like a longer block of text, and there have been some animations on the site, and you just can't focus on the text because there is so much movement happening there. Well, that's actually my life often. I also have I have had a traumatic brain injury which affects focus much, and it's sometimes really hard for me to focus. So these kind of distractions, they are also they don't make my life easy. So there is I can say that I actually have to live with both of the problems I'm describing here. All right, let's continue without the slides. Well, the next thing that we are going to talk about is what causes these problems I just described. There is one group of disorders that's called vestibular disorders, and that's actually an umbrella term for different kinds of disorders that affect the vestibular system, which is the thing in the ear that affects, for example, your balance. I'm not really good at anatomy, and I'm not going to describe it with more precise terms, but that's basically the thing in the ear that affects your balance and other things like that. And different kinds of vestibular disorders are Meniere's, age-related dizziness and imbalance, vestibular damage due to, for example, head injury, or benign, okay, this is a hard word, benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, which is like, if you know Finnish, hyvänlaatuinen asentohuimaus is the word that I'm describing it. Basically, it's like dizziness that, like, no, I'm not gonna even try to describe that right now, but it's dizziness, let's say it that way. And, well, other types of, like, disorders. And there are different things that might cause these, like, different vestibular disorders. So, for example, traumatic brain injuries might have, like, caused this. Ear infections might cause this. Migraines might cause this. Strokes might cause this. And then there is this one unknown. Like, sometimes they just happen and, like, doctors don't know why. And that's actually, like, I had really bad case of that benign paroxysmal positional vertigo thing some years back, and like there was really no, like, reason for that. So sometimes they just happen, and I think that my, like, problem started after that, but I'm not sure. Like, it's possible that they started earlier, I just didn't notice them. Like, I mean, with the problems, I mean the like things that get triggered with the certain types of movement. And then cognitive disabilities might cause, for example, problems with focus and like focusing and like I mentioned about distracting animations. So cognitive disabilities are a big group for that. So cognitive disabilities like those traumatic brain injuries, which might cause different types of like disabilities or like well, symptoms. Then autism, ADHD, and other, like, well, I just want to say cognitive disabilities because that's really like a large group of different disabilities. And now I'm gonna see.
Try one more time for the slides.
Yeah. All right. And I mentioned that certain types of movement make me feel, or might trigger my symptoms. Well, what are the, like the, well, I want to talk about what actually makes that movement problematic. There are, like, Valhead, who is a like, she's been working a lot with animations. She wrote a really good article about when she was interviewing people who get symptoms from different kinds of animations, and she found 3 like things that might make movement problematic. And then there's 4th one I'm going to talk about the like end of the slide, but like 3 things that might trigger these kind of symptoms. First of all, relative size of the movement, and this is about, like, perceived space. And, like, if, like, with this I mean that if you think about a phone, it's like a small thing, and, like, the movement or animations on that phone, they never can be, like, or take that much space because the screen is really small. But if the animation takes the whole screen, it's actually, like, the space that's perceived, it's really big because it takes the, like, 100% of the screen. So that's like a good thing to remember, that, like, relative size of the movement might cause this. And for example, let's say parallax scrolling, that's something that I hate from the bottom of my heart. And if you don't remember anything else from this talk, remember that never use parallax scrolling, please. But yeah, it's a good example. Also, like, big elements that are moving from, let's say, side to side or something like that, they are good examples of like movement that's like problematic because of the relative size of it. And I have this one story related to this. It was almost 2 years ago in May. In May there is this day called Global Accessibility Awareness Day. It's the 3rd Thursday of May or something like that every year. And I was working. I was sitting on my computer. I had this big screen which I was using. And I got a phone call from some recruiter. I don't know why I answered. I usually don't answer, but for some reason that day I answered. And they started telling me that, okay, hey, I'm from this company and I'm a recruiter, and like there was this long talk they gave. And during the talk, I opened the company's website, started scrolling, and there was parallax scrolling. There were these huge like elements that were moving from side to side, and because I had this like big screen and I had the browser as a like whole screen size, well, the animation, it was really awful, and I started feeling really disoriented, and I tried to just, because I'm a nice person, I just didn't hang up right away. I started to tell that person like, I'm sorry, but I have this thing, and like your site, and I tried, and I don't know, and like honestly I don't know if that person ever got like what I was saying, but like we ended the phone call, and like I think I was nice and polite. I don't know, I don't remember. But after that call, I had to go to lay down for like 30 minutes before I could continue working. And that was like really inconvenient, and like it wasn't nice. So yeah, so that's like a good example of what might happen if you have parallax scrolling on your site, for example. And yeah, so the first thing is relative size of the movement. The second thing is mismatched directions and speed, which is actually maybe the kind of the description of parallax scrolling or parallax effect when scrolling is the, at least the like speed is not like the same, and there are always differences. And I have a story about that too. If you've tinkered with the web before HTML5, you might remember, or you might have heard about this element called marquee. If you haven't, it's a element that basically like its idea is that like the text put inside it scrolls like horizontally, and nowadays it's deprecated, but for some reason some people like to add that same animation through CSS, and I don't know why. But I was actually like, one time I was buying some chocolate. I had this like my favorite chocolate store, and I couldn't go to their store, so I decided to order like from there. I went to their website, and they had their headings as these like marquee styled, so like horizontally scrolling headings, like, and there were lots of them, and that was like, well, I should have stopped when I saw that, but I started scrolling, and well, then it hit me, and I didn't feel good after that. And I actually sent some like feedback to them with some clear instructions that, hey, could you please implement this, and like with a message that they could have sent to their developer, so that the developer would have known that, okay, like I need to do this, because like there is this media query called prefers reduced motion, which they could have implemented, and I sent instructions for that. They never answered to me, and yeah, and the kind of the funny thing in this is that, so that I could actually send the feedback, I needed somebody else's help for that, like so that they opened the feedback form for me, because I just couldn't use the site, because, well, I felt nauseous. So, and like, I felt really bad, actually. So yeah. So mismatched directions and speed, it's the second thing. And the third one is the distance covered. It's sort of like combination of these two, and then also like the examples that I told, it was also like, well, this distance covered, because like in both of them, the movement was from like one side to the other. And this is basically about the perceived space, but it's also like about the real distance. And in both of these cases, I had like, the website was on full screen on my big screen at home. So yeah, that was like the real distance was also a lot. Then there is like a fourth thing that's not related really to the this website or app making me sick kind of things, but about like it's about the like distractions. So if there is some movement near the content, that might be really problematic. As I mentioned, mentioned the example about like movement happening somewhere, like when you are reading text, that's really like, well, for me when I try to read something, like on some news sites, for example, there are these auto-playing videos or advertisements that are just constantly playing something. I try to read the news and I can't because, well, there is so much like movement, and I try to read and then I'm like, okay, what's happening there? Hey, no, I need to read, and oh, no, there is something else. So like movement near content can be really problematic. All right. But then not all animations are bad. Because like, okay, like I don't really like animations because of the reasons that I've told, but I also recognize that not all animations are bad. Animations can help actually to build or like, they might help building or understanding some concepts or like relationships on some places. So there are good sides to animations too. And also like, in the article I mentioned, Valhead's article, she also found that not like, for example, non-moving animations are not always that problematic, of course, if they are not near the content. But like some subtle animations might be really like, okay, and might help. And so yeah, but I have to admit that not all animations are bad. All right. That was like about animations and accessibility, or, well, no. I'm going to continue the theme of accessibility in the next section, but basically that was about animations and how they might be problematic. And next thing, let's talk about Android and reduced motion. I mentioned that there is this setting called either reduced motion or turn animations off. In many Android devices, it's actually like turn animations off, but on like iOS and like Mac, it's reduced motion, so there might be some confusion there. And I also mentioned that it's possible to respect that setting. And in the web, as I mentioned, there is this media query called prefers reduced motion, which like has two values that I can't say right now because I haven't been using it for a while. It might be reduce and something else, but like if you Google prefers reduced motion, then you will find, or reduced motion plus CSS. There's like lots of information about that. But in the web, developers need to actually build the implementation and like basically everything so that the reduced motion setting is respected. But on Android, it's actually like, in many cases, it's actually respected out of the box, and that's why I'm like really happy about that. And I was developing this one feature last year, and I needed to test if the reduced motion implementation worked, and I had to turn the setting off, and I was really like surprised how much movement there actually is on the Android device when that setting is not on. And speaking of that feature, I'm gonna show you an example of how this thing, I'm gonna soon tell what it is, but how it looks when the reduced motion setting is not on, and how it looks like when it's on, and then I will show some code as well. But as mentioned last year, or at the end of last year, we were building this feature which is called Year in Review. So if you've used Aura, or if you have Aura and have used it for, let's say, long enough time period last year, you should have seen this feature. And the thing that I'm gonna show here, great. I'm sorry?
Describe it in your own words.
Yeah, well, it's like, okay, yeah. I can actually describe it, because, would you please? Because it's like, it doesn't differ much from this picture that I have here. So basically in the video, the cat, which is there, is like, you can see that the cat is breathing. Its back is slowly like rising in a, like the, well, like it's breathing, and its ears are moving like really subtle, like, well, it's not much movement, so you can imagine that it's happening there. I'm almost seeing it actually right now, but there is no like animations there. But that's basically like how the feature looks like without the reduced motion setting on, and this is how it looks like when it's on. So this is basically just a static image that we are using. And so yeah, and if you are Aura user and haven't seen this slide, but you have seen this Aura, Year in Review, it just means that you haven't taken any naps. We are not showing it for people who are not, who have not taken naps. But yeah, if you wanna, like, if you have Android and wanna try it on at some point, and if you have like newer Android, because this is not on the older ones, I'm not sure which is the first like Android version that has this, but like with the newer ones, let's just put it that way, you can find it from settings. There is usually something like accessibility settings, and then vision, and then turn animations off. Depending on the device, it might be different, but basically it's in the accessibility settings, and usually under vision, and it's usually called turn animations off. So yeah. And well, this setting on Android, as I mentioned, it's usually respected. If you are building an app that uses animator-based animations, it's respected. Or if you are building an app with Jetpack Compose version 1.2.0 or higher, then it's respected. But if you have like Compose version that's lower, that 1.2.0, it's not respected. And then also like there might be some weird cases I don't know about, and that's why like it's really important to test. And then one other case is when you might want to check if this setting is actually enabled in your code, when you actually have to do something and not just trust that, okay, like this is, this setting is respected, is if you are using like Lottie animations or something like that. And that was actually the case for our feature. We are using Lottie for the animations, and but the Lottie, it shows like when reduced motion setting is on, it shows the like basically the first frame. And if the first frame is not usable, like it was basically in many of our animations, it was like an empty frame or something like that, we wanted to show something else instead of like well, basically a static image instead of the first frame of the animation. So there is that, like, there are some cases when you should really check, but I recommend testing. So that's basically like what's the, well, what you should do. And as promised, here we have some code. So basically, like, this is Kotlin code for those of you who don't recognize. And this is a function that you can actually use for checking if reduced motion is enabled. And what it does is, first it defines the animation duration by trying to get this setting called animation duration scale, which is 0 if this setting is on. But because it's not always, like with the older Android versions, for example, the setting is not there, that's why we want to catch the setting not found exception and then set the value to basically anything else than 0, which is the value of the animator duration scale if the setting is on. And at the end, on line 10, we are returning that animation duration if it's 0. So basically, if it's 0, then it's true, the setting is enabled. And if not, then, well, it's false, it's not enabled, or it's not present. So that's basically like the idea with this one. Just like you can't get this value from Android's accessibility settings. Or like accessibility service, I think that's the right word for it, like in code, I mean. So that's basically it. So we are almost done. So the key takeaways from my talk, what I hope that you remember, I have like 3 + 1. I'm going to start with the +1. Remember, never use parallel scrolling, please. That makes me happy if you don't. But like the kind of the real ones are that the first thing is that not everyone enjoys animations, and they can be either distracting or they might trigger symptoms like nausea, dizziness, feeling disoriented, headaches, seizures, or like different things. The second thing is that we who suffer from animations, we often use these operating system level settings to turn animations off or reduce them, depending. The name depends on the operating system. So please respect it, like as a developer. And, whoa. Yeah, and the third one is that in Android, the setting is actually respected in many cases, but not always, so test it. Test it, test it. That's like the only way to really make sure that like the animations don't appear where they shouldn't. All right, so thank you for listening. My name is Eeva-Jonna Panula, and you can find me from many places. So I'm on Instagram. I have a Finnish account there. I'm at eevis.codes, so eevis.codes. And then I'm on Mastodon. I just joined. So it's eevis at mas2, so eevis at mas.to. This is like, I haven't used to like spelling this one. And then you can basically find other ways to contact me from my website, which is eevis.codes. And there is also my blog where there is blog post with the same name. So like, was it Android animations and reduced motion? So there is like, there are links to different resources, and that's the place where you can also find the code. So yeah, I wanted to share the slides, but I had some technical difficulties, so like unfortunately I can't share them like right now. So yeah, thank you.